Hi, Ben from LabStrong here. Today we're going to cover how to mount the LabStrong Rapids Type I water purification system. Before we start, we just need to make sure we have a few things in place and then we're good to go. First, our power source needs to be about 3 or 4 feet away from where we're working. It's going to make things really easy for us. And the power source needs to be rated at 120 volts and 15 amps. Next up, our water source also needs to be about 3 or 4 feet away from where we plan to mount the unit. Here's our water source. Our water source can be tap or pretreat, either one works just fine. Finally, we're going to make sure that our wall we are demonstrating or operating on can support the Rapids unit, which we are good to go. And last but not least, for your convenience sake, if the Rapids is near a sink, that's going to make things a lot easier for you when it comes to cleanup and for operating purposes. So now we are ready to mount the system. So first thing we need to do is pull out the template, which is included in the Rapids unit when we ship it to you. And the template has everything you'll need to know for how to mount the system, but we'll go over it for convenience sake. So first thing we're going to do is mount the template to our wall. And we have just some tape here. Doesn't really matter what kind of tape you're using to be able to place this on our wall here. Going to make sure this template is completely flat against the wall. Doesn't need to be perfect, but you are going to want to make sure that it is level and align it with the center line on this template. And when we place the Rapids unit, it's going to extend about 1 foot above and below this center line, which is good to know in reference to your power source and your water source. And that's looking good to go. Now, before we go any further, we're going to want to prepare our Rapids unit to be mounted to our wall. To do this, simply remove the housing cover, which is screwed in and attached to our Rapids unit when we ship it to you, which you can see in this template. To remove the cover, just unscrew the screws. This will make things a lot safer and easier when it comes time to mounting the system because there's a couple screws in the back which are hard to reach with that housing cover on. So now, once again, this is completely dependent upon your wall you're operating on and for your specific needs, but for our demonstration purposes, for this plywood wall, we're going to take our center punch and we're going to position it right on these crosshairs here. There's 5 different crosshairs on the template. And we're going to do a 1/2 inch center punch. Get it as precise as we can. So we marked these center punches because that's going to make things a lot easier when it comes time to drill in the bolts, which we will mount the Rapids system onto. So we have all 5 of our center punches ready to go. And so now we're going to drill pilot holes into our wall. Once again, this depends on your type of wall. So here we go. There we are. And we're going to make sure those pilot holes are as horizontal as possible. It's going to make things a lot easier when it comes time to drilling in our bolts. Now it's time to screw in the screws to mount the Rapids unit. Before we do so, we are good to go with our template, so we can take this off the wall. But keep it around because once again, it's got everything you'll need to know right on here. So we can see our 5 center punches all ready to go. For our sake demonstration purposes, we have mounting bolts we're going to use to mount the system. And we're going to leave about a 1/2 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch sticking out of the wall in order to mount the system on top of these bolts. It's better to leave a little bit of extra space rather than drill in too far in case we need to drill in a little bit extra later on. And once all of the bolts are set up and good to go, it's time to mount the Rapids system. And mounting the Rapids is as easy as lining up these keyhole-shaped slots with our bolts on the wall, making sure they line up at all 5 spots. And once they're lined up, simply slide the Rapids down and it'll lock into place. Now, once we have mounted the unit, we're going to want to tighten the screws to make sure the unit is securely mounted on the wall. And for these back couple, we might want to use an extension to make sure we can tighten these bolts. Now, once we've mounted our Rapids system, it's time to attach our power cord. And when we ship the power cord to you, we also include a wall strap in case you want to screw this into the wall and mount the power brick to it for your convenience sake. And when you go to plug in the power cord to the unit, make sure that the connector has the flat side with these arrows facing towards you. That's the right orientation to power on the unit. And once we have our power source attached, we can attach our tubing. When we ship the Rapids to you, we include 10 feet of tubing. We've already cut ours to length, so we're going to attach it. And finally, our last step is to reattach the housing cover, which we removed earlier to make the mounting process easier. Our first step here is to attach our USB cables to make sure that front display is working later on. And secondly, an important note here is to make sure this cord stays on the inside of the unit when we go to reattach the cover. Now at this point, it can be a little bit tricky to do this with one person to kind of manage the cords and the screws. So I'm gonna grab a friend or a coworker and we're gonna reattach this and cut back in just a little bit. And there we go. We have successfully reattached our housing unit. Now there are 7 screws in total, 3 on top, 3 on the left-hand side, and 1 on the bottom. They're all Phillips head screws, which differentiates them from the screws that are part of the base unit. Now that we've secured the Rapids unit to the wall, it's time to install cartridges. To begin with, take out the fitting removal tool, which we include in your shipment of the Rapids unit. Right here on the tool, you'll see a label that tells you exactly how to use it, but in short, when you go to use this tool, make sure that the Velcro is facing away from the unit, so Velcro up when you go to use it up here, Velcro down on this side, and simply use the leverage that the tool provides to easily remove these fittings. Now that we've removed the fittings from the cleaning tubes on the system, we're ready to install cartridges. To begin with, we'll need to power on the system for this. So to turn on the power, just hit the power switch on the top left-hand side there. It'll take just a few seconds to turn on. So while it's powering up, we'll talk about our cartridges. Today, we're using one of the 6 available cartridge kits that works with the Rapids unit. Specifically, we're using the kit D00338. First, find which cartridge out of the 4 in the kit has the NFC tag on the back. That's this white circle sticker right here. That'll link up with our NFC reader, which is in position 1 on the unit. So position 1, 2, 3, 4, from right to left, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll refer to our menu to install our cartridges. First, hit the menu button, which is this hamburger button we like to call it, in the top left. And we're gonna go to maintenance, and then install new cartridges. This will tell us exactly what we need to know to install these cartridges. Hit begin, and we select our cartridge kit, like I said, is D00338. And this will tell us the installation order. So we know position 1 goes with the NFC tag cartridge. And then for positions 2, 3, and 4, make a mental note or write it down which order the cartridges go in. And if you forget, you can always hit this back button up in the top right and refer back to this menu. Now we hit next, install cartridge 1 into the first position. So we'll install cartridge 1 into that first position. And when it locks into place and it's reading with the NFC tag, it'll come up with a green check mark there. And we'll lock in these fittings and make sure that the top of the cartridge hits the top of the Rapids unit. You can see once we did that, the green check mark shows up. Now we'll hit next and make sure that the fittings are completely secure, which we did. And now we install the remaining 3 cartridges. And don't forget about this strap right here. This will come strapped when we ship the unit to you. Make sure it's unstrapped before you put in all these cartridges. So now we've installed our remaining cartridges. We can hit next and make sure that all of our fittings are properly connected, which they are. And now it's time to purge the air from the unit. But before we do so, we just have a few more things to do. First, let's strap up these cartridges here, make sure they're remaining in place. And then we'll take our fitting removal tool and attach it to the strap on the cartridges for when we'll need it later on. Next, we'll take our air filter, which is this green piece right here. It has an arrow on the side facing up. We'll make sure that the arrow is facing up when we connect it to the air filter tube, which is underneath the Rapids unit. And finally, we'll want to use a bucket or at least some sort of connector, unless you want the water to spill over the floor, which that's your choice. But we have a hose here that we're going to connect to our unit to make sure it feeds directly into our trough when we purge the air. Now purging the air from the cartridges will make them all the way ready to dispense. So we're gonna hit purge air, and we're gonna turn on our water source as well. And while we're purging the air from the cartridges, we're going to clean up our work area a little bit. We can use the extra room on this Velcro strap to clean up some of these dangling cords. We'll cut back in just a little bit and we'll be ready for our final steps to install the system. And now our air purge cycle is complete, so we're going to hit next. And now it's telling us to install the final filter. At this point, if you have a final filter accessory, you can reinstall that. We're going to click next, and we are completely done with our cartridge installation. So our very last step is to put on the gray cartridge cover. To put this on, simply align the top of the cover with these rods up here. It'll lock into place, and you'll feel those magnets really lock the cover down. And that is it. We are completely done. Today, we have successfully mounted and installed the LabStrong Rapids Type I water purification system. In the next video, we'll cover operation basics, including the 3 different modes that the main screen has on the Rapids unit. Thank you so much for watching. At LabStrong, we're committed to making your lab life easier. For more content, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for additional help, contact the experts right here at LabStrong.